It is Tuesday. RawMikeRichards.com. Broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto, 234 King Street East, out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. Coming up today, we're going to talk to our good friend and legal superstar, Jeff Manishin. There's a lot of issues out there right now, and I guess he can explain exactly how this is going to work out. A lot of sensitivity right now with professional athletes. And I think probably in this country, a lot of upset over what is happening with the tragedy in Humboldt and how that may play out from a guy who does this at the highest level for a living. So we'll talk to Jeff Manishin from Ross McBride. Also, T.O. has decided that he, and they knew this was coming, he would not attend the Football Hall of Fame ceremonies. Because apparently, Dave, he's too busy with his eye on playing for the Edmonton Eskimos.
Boyhood dream. Boyhood dream. 10 days away. Let's see what happens.
I just think it's the most bizarre headline that I didn't expect to see, but I guess if you're talking about T.O., why wouldn't I think this is coming? Actually, I've got a clip of him when he played for the, wait for it, Allen Wranglers of the Indoor Football League. Like, it's just so bizarre. We're going to get also Mark Wahlberg, who actually has a piece of UFC. I don't know what he doesn't have a piece of. Mark Wahlberg must be absolutely loaded. Talking about Conor McGregor, get his take. And Carnoustie in the Open Championship. We'll have a little bit of a flyover to see what they're up against. Dave, when I take a look at those links courses, it always they look so goddamn ugly. It's just not my. It
totally is.
Like
the rough is 3-4 feet high. It looks like garbage. I mean, there's so much more they could probably do with it, considering how much rain they get. Like if you look in, what Toronto looks like here in the middle of July, everything's yellow, everything's brown, but it's because we don't get any rain or haven't gotten any rain over there. That's all they get, and it still looks like garbage.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it because
it's hard to.
It's really sunny.
Yeah, it's hard to make that place look garbage, but they do a great job at it. So thumbs up.
We're not fans because some guys, the traditional guys, they'll look at Carnoustie today. They'll see the fescue that's, as you just mentioned, up to your shoulders. Then there's that weird, all those. Look, it does look like the prairies, like just sort of undulating. You don't really see, and then they've got those deep. What do you call them? Those belly sand traps that go all the way.
Dunes almost. Yeah. No, I know. It looks like crap. I don't know. Visually speaking, it's going to rain in 2 out of the 4 days coming up starting Thursday. But
the sideways rain, the wind.
Yeah.
Like some people just they love it. They don't even call it the British Open, and I guess if you're into it, you just call it the Open Championship. We know what you're talking about. But I don't know if it's, to me, and again, we're North American, so a little bit different. Like I look at the Masters as my favorite tournament. Although when they get to, I guess what the PGA Championship's kind of interesting because it's the best of the best. I get a kick out of the one in the Waste Management just because there's a little bit of a rock concert going on. I think it's kind of interesting. But this is as traditional as you get. It's almost the home of the RNA, and I guess if you enjoy that look. Because there's in Alberta, there was a couple of those courses that looked exactly like that.
Oh, okay. I've never been.
Yeah, well, it's just so because you're off by just a little bit. It's worse than look. The U.S. Open's always known as the tough but fair golf course, and of course it travels, so it varies from year to year. But I guess we'll find out, and we'll take a little bit of a fly. You know what? Why don't we do that now? So, Dave, here's a look at what the players. I swear to God, I'm going to burn this hockey stick pretty soon if it doesn't find out. Why does it? Anyway.
Should duct tape it to that locker, right?
Yeah, we should duct tape a lot of things in this room.
No kidding.
Just the little douchebags don't take it.
Yeah, there's a ton of them, too.
Yeah. Your little germs. This is getting off to a friendly show. Okay, so here's what they're up against. Dave, you take a look at it and decide when this is over, what do you think you'd shoot on this golf course?
120.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Right. Okay. Let's look at it first. Maybe 150.
Okay. So the segment is called, you just lobbed off 5. Jeez, I know guys that we golf with who do exactly just what you did.
No kidding. Coach Frank's good at that.
Oh, Let's. So this is called What Would Dave Golf?
One of the world's great links courses, Carnoustie in Scotland is renowned as the toughest test on the open rota.
Oh.
With frequent strong winds, long, narrow fairways and treacherous bunkers, Carnoustie can push even the best in the game to their limits. Ahead of the 147th Open, we've been finding out what lies in wait when the game's oldest major returns to Carnoustie for an 8th time in July.
Okay, we get it.
We're always
beautiful.
planning for an Open. You know, we're always taking the course forward. Any changes that are made, we'll always have the Open in mind. From 2007 to now, there has been...
By the way, he's speaking English.
Spectator mounding, spectator vantage points, things like that. It's to make the spectator journey around here the best it can be. You know, we want spectators to see and feel that kind of the buzz that the golfers are going through.
Look at that. It looks like hell.
Every year we could host the Open. The condition of the golf course, our superintendent and his team do a phenomenal job. Gets a lot of play, but year in, year out, it's in fantastic conditions. So yeah, they are well ahead.
It's interesting what they call fantastic conditions, Dave. Like look at that.
When the championship was held here in 1990,
It's like golfing on the moon.
Rory's winning score was 6 over par. There's no doubt whoever wins the Claret Jug here this year will certainly have earned it.
Okay, so you're looking at that tremendous golf course.
Yeah, maybe 130.
And that's from what?
Woof.
Like the not the tips.
No, well, from anywhere. Holy crap!
That
looks like you can't miss a fairway or you're in trouble. And I'm like 30% fairway. So.
And you have to identify what the fairway is.
Yeah, which one is it exactly? It honestly is. It's like hitting a golf ball down a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that you hit the sidewalk and not the street or the house or the building. Or that's I don't know. Like I know some people have pocketed their money and let's go overseas to golf. And that'd be fun if you were like rolling in money. But for my money, I'd golf anywhere here in Ontario, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. I've golfed all those provinces.
Zakito goes over
that's fine. That's fine with me.
Like he golfs the old course
with
a bunch of his buddies. He's over there all the time.
He's asked me to come too, and I've considered it. But
for free?
Like,
for free?
No, hell no. No, you'd have to pay for everything. And as soon as you do that, it's like, I'm out.
Yeah. How come Dave Bastel's seat's empty on the plane? Because it's not free.
Yeah, it's not
Zakino.
free. No.
Just because, and guess what? It's probably free for you.
No, exactly. So, hey, speaking of that, Sports Interaction has a fantastic piñata.
You love the
bet.
piñata.
So we're going to do that right now. It's the British Open winner. So it's right on the front page. You got the swinging horse, so you got to take a swing at the horse.
And guess what? Of all the piñata games,
yep.
of the crazy numbers that come up, this might be the best one to do because guess what? You just heard, +6 is going to be, and anyone who gets the right kind of weather, the wind dies at the right time. This thing is, I think, more wide open in terms of who could win it than, say, looking at a Masters or a U.S. Open or a PGA Championship.
That's exactly it. So it's 126 to 1. So log on, sportsinteraction.com. Still claim your bonus, too. They pay up to $200 on your first deposit. I'm putting $2 on this. $2 whopping dollars. The payout is $252. I'm placing my bet right now. And the player I have is... You're going to like this name. Brandon Steele.
Ooh, are you kidding me?
Brandon Steele.
Brandon Steele, my bar name.
Yes.
Oh, my God, Brandon Steele. Oh, there's an omen right there, Dave.
So, that could be something. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to go one more time.
I can't believe you got Brandon Steele.
So, it's so easy to do. This time, I'm going to go $1. So, $1 pays 126. So, here it goes. Tap on the British Open winner. Bet the dollar. Here it is, $1, and place your bet. And they give you, I've never heard of him, Chris Wood.
Oh, Woodsy.
Chris
Wood. What's that?
You know his nickname. That's appropriate. So there you go, Brandon Steele, Chris Wood. I am cheering for you. I've heard of Brandon Steele. Brandon Steele's won on the PGA.
Yeah, sure he has. No, he's
I
legit.
got a feeling Brandon Steele's not going to be playing on Saturday morning, but
maybe not.
if he makes the cut, you never know, right? So there you go. So check that out. They also have regular betting on Sports Interaction, of course, for golf and so forth. So it's not like you just have to throw up the Hail Marys as I did. Right now, they have different bets for top Asian golfer.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Course.
So Hideki's probably he's got to be up there.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
He's number 1 right now, which makes a lot of sense because he is always a favorite at a lot of different majors, and he's the number 1 Asian golfer right now.
Can they do that?
So, what's that?
Top Asian and.
I guess
that's segregation, mister.
I guess I don't know. Right now, Dustin Johnson is the book lead right now, followed by Justin Rose, who's a pretty good bet. Ricky Fowler, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, your usual suspects kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're going a little off the board, and you're thinking, okay, well, we'll see. Jason Day is paying 30-1, which is pretty decent money.
Yeah, that is very good money.
There's a couple other players that I'd be looking at. Matt Kuchar's paying 50-1. Thomas Peters is paying 60-1. Guys like that. So and Bubba, even though this isn't a Bubba course because he's more of a big hitter, he's paying 72-1.
Like, wouldn't you think like Rory being in, like Rory's 16-1? But some of these guys like Dustin, I just don't trust. But I think if I'm going on a traditional sort of link style golf course, then why wouldn't it be like a Justin Rose, Rory McIlroy's in there.
I'd even go as far as saying John Rahm is a pretty decent bet.
That's a good bet too.
So
Henrik Stenson.
Yeah, you look at players like that. Funny how Tiger Woods is 20-1, even though Tiger Woods is going to be lucky to make the cut.
Okay, but I don't get that. Why is that possible?
Public better. That's
just
what
public
it is.
money, eh?
Public money. Everybody sits there. Even the non-golf fan will go, I'll bet on Tiger Woods. It's very New England Patriot, New York Yankee-ish, where no matter what kind of season these guys are having or these golfers are having, team is having, whoever you're cheering for, they'll always be, lodged in higher than what it is. If Tiger Woods' game was what it is today and his name was Frank Smith would not be paying 20-1. He'd be paying 65-1.
But I like your idea of like a Jason Day, 30-1. 30 times your money.
Yeah.
I think that's a value. Sergio, for what it's worth,
sure.
When it comes to these kinds of tournaments over in Europe,
European golfers
right?
do well.
Totally.
So there's something to look at. SportsInteraction.com, and then of course they have it all weekend long. You can bet on. Group play as well once they start breaking down on Thursday into the threesomes and so forth. So you could bet who will win the group and et cetera. There's tons. Right now, 85 bets on sportsinteraction.com. So definitely check that out.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this question out to you. Let's get some production by here. Let's get some metal music. Come on. There we go. Of the celebrities that we know, like I'm saying one of the bigger celebrities that seem to have it all, in, whether it's television, movies, directing, and then they have that weird, almost brotherhood, this closeness with guys who own professional franchises or they know professional athletes, or you see them at all these events. Who for you do you think is at the top of that list? Because I think his life must be pretty good.
Well, you brought him up earlier. I think it's like a Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
I think he's in that conversation. I think I wouldn't say the Rock, Dwayne Johnson is. I think it's close.
Yeah, but I think he's his own universe too. Like he's one of the hottest guys right now on the planet. I agree.
So
Wahlberg's a great pick.
It'd be guys like that. I think it's and there's a lot of guys like that. Like sports and celebrity, as far as movie celebrity, is almost hand in hand. So,
because I said, if you wanted to trade lives with someone who has the great life, and sometimes you're like, okay, well, how can you do that? He certainly would be one of them. He'd be great. The other guy I always thought would be cool to be, just cool to be him. Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Up there, he's had a great life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had Goldie.
Yeah.
In the early days though, early Goldie.
Yeah, but you know what?
You're breaking off there. Is that what you're telling me? You're Kurt Russell.
If I'm Kurt Russell, I'm not staying with the same person for 60 years. Or however long
Irene, this is no way an indicator.
I'm saying Kurt Russell, yeah. Kurt Russell can do whatever he wants. You know what I mean?
Do you think Kurt Russell could get Irene?
No, he can't. No. No, that would be out of his league.
Yeah. And then he's going to have to deal with the Greek stuff.
That's right. You don't want that.
That's not for everybody.
No, it's not. No.
But it might be for me, Vicky. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It totally... Tikanis.
Well, good luck with that. I wish you the best, and I welcome you to the family.
Talking about Mark Wahlberg. So TMZ, it started off, all the just paparazzi, right? Just following people around, just what the celebrities were. And then they got into the sports side of things, and it's sort of interesting. They go with the same approach. But if you get the right guy, even though they're not going to give you Dave a lot of the time because they're coming out of a restaurant or they're getting into their car.
Yep.
But they stopped Mark Wahlberg, and I thought this was kind of cool because they asked him about Conor McGregor. After he got it, he did that weird shit with the bus.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
I looked at it and go, Conor,
it was just stupid.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Mark Wahlberg also has a piece of UFC. I didn't know that.
Oh, I had no idea.
I had no idea. So TMZ, they go up to him, they ask him a bunch of things, including stuff about the Patriots, about Gronk, and about the relationship between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, because we know that he shows up in the box all the time.
Yep.
There's another one. So once again, property and courtesy of TMZ Sports, here's Mark Wahlberg answering all those questions.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Conor's going to court tomorrow. What do you think his punishment should be in the UFC?
For what?
For, the
Brooklyn
bus incident.
The Brooklyn incident?
Yeah.
I think, obviously he was upset. He got his title stripped. He should have given it with Khabib, or you lose your belt, bro. You're enjoying that money.
You think he should have like a suspension or anything?
You know what? That's not really my place. I just got a piece of the UFC.
Hey, I was gonna say, are you still willing to give him your piece? You
No.
said that a while ago. No?
No.
After this, you're not?
Well, no, not because of that.
What's the best
I need my piece, man. Come on, he's got a big TV deal with ESPN and everything else.
Yeah.
Come on, man, we're making it happen.
Do you still believe in him and his future?
What's the best burger on the menu?
You know what? There's so many great burgers. You guys gotta go check it out.
Okay.
No, I think he's super talented. He's a huge star.
Yeah.
But
Think he'll get it together and get back on track?
well, I hope so. Thankfully nobody was seriously hurt.
Hey,
Watch yourself, everybody.
I heard they were trying to trade Gronk before the draft, but Kraft put a stop to it. What do you think about that?
No, they ain't trying to trade him out.
Do you think it's true that Belichick really has a beef going on with Brady and then Gronk and all that?
I think everybody wishes there was a beef because everyone wants to take down the beast, but Patriots way, baby.
I don't know, bro.
Say hi to your mother.
Yeah. Why asking me? I don't think so. But it is awesome. Isn't it so funny, though? It is true. His comment about people making noise about Belichick and Brady and stuff like that. If you're anti-patriot, which is a big part of the world, right? Except for the grunt whistle over there, Russell, who loves them.
Well, he looks like Gronk. That's why.
I've always said that.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that. Mm-hmm. Like one of his thighs.
Yes.
Which is not quite as big. But it's because people want to think that there's going to be some weirdness. But look, I mean, so if you're looking at, and we just talked about Sports Interaction, if we start looking at the futures, and I shouldn't say already, because now that we're halfway through July, I mean, we're talking about those preseason games, not really that far away. OTA's been going on for quite a while. You're going to start seeing where some camp stuff probably. I would think very soon in the NFL. And if I'm looking at how the season ended last year, and I'm looking at exactly what the Patriots have, it's really hard to bet against them. Like, there's still going to be an elite team. Tom Brady, barring injury, and I think you always have to say that, but nothing has told us. I mean, look, he didn't show up at camp in the very beginning, but he doesn't need. I mean, let's be honest, that he doesn't need the time. He just needs to be healthy. So that being said, where do you think it falls this year in the NFL if we're taking a look at that?
You know what? It's still the Patriots' division to lose by far, just because the rest of the teams are so weak. Brandon Cooks is no longer a member of the Patriots, so that's going to be a loss because he's now with the St. Louis Rams. Danny Amendola has left as well.
LA Rams.
Yeah. He's with the Miami Dolphins. But the thing is, a lot of people are forgetting that last year they went to the Super Bowl without Julian Edelman, and now Edelman's back.
Yeah,
so
yes, true.
There's your replacement for some of the loss. So it's kind of like, okay, they, who would you rather have, Edelman or Amendola? And I'm saying Edelman. Well, they got him back, and Danny's with the Miami Dolphins now. So it's, Gronk's back, Brady's back, the coaching staff for the most part back, new OC, new DC, because those guys have moved on, or I should say new DC. OC is still there. Josh McDaniels is obviously waiting for Bill Belichick to retire. It's their division. It's not anything that should surprise too many people. I just wonder how many wins they get, because I don't know if it's as dominating as last year, but double-digit wins is probably on the card for the Patriots.
I think a lot of people are curious to see what the Jets are going to do.
Yes.
At the quarterback position, it's going to be.
I think it's a learning. I think it's a learning season for the Jets, or hopefully they will. But considering that Josh McCown's back, Teddy Bridgewater's in place, and hopefully Sam Darnold is listed as the third quarterback, and they leave him in that third quarterback spot. The Jets aren't going to do anything more than 6 wins this year, so don't kill the guy this year until you start having some of the talent surround him. Build it up. The defense looks really good, actually. The offense kind of looks very, very below average.
But you're a Jets fan, a lifelong Jets fan.
Yeah.
This is a similar conversation that you have, because the defense usually is there. There's been some historically great, even going back to Darrelle Revis and
going back to Mark Gastineau,
or Gastineau, even further
when it was
back.
the New York Sack Exchange. So that's how good that was.
Did you like that name? Did you
I actually love that name. I still use that name for a lot of my fantasy names, the New York Sack Exchange. So
he had an outstanding. Now, people are going to say mullet. I call it hockey hair. I think it's a little bit different. I think when it's cut blunt, it's a mullet.
Bingo.
But if it's like Yarmer Yager,
that's
awesome.
Yeah,
Gastineau had
a lot of people don't remember him for when he was in his prime, but he was the heir apparent to the Joe Namath throne. Joe Namath was Hollywood, fur coats and stuff like that. Gastineau was kind of picked up the torch, just not to the level of Broadway Joe. You could imagine some of the stuff Gastineau got himself into, and probably thankful there wasn't social media back then, because living in New York City, being a New York Jet, being on the front page,
and then married to
Bridget Nielsen.
So
he was the playboy of New York for many years.
Russell would have been an awesome husband for Brigitte Nielsen.
I could see that.
That would look great.
That would be really good.
I would like to see that. By the way, the futures for the AFC Championship outright.
Yeah.
New England Patriots pay a 3.75. So I'm going decimals here just so you know. I know it drives Stephen Rupp crazy, but I'm just doing it.
That's fine.
3.75. The Pittsburgh Steelers a 5.25. Here's where I think there's some value. The Houston Texans play a 9. Now, if they're a healthy Houston Texans,
which they should be,
I think that is going to be one of the teams that I for sure am going to watch. Mm-hmm. You got Jacksonville at a 9, and the
that's not a bad bet either.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting bet. The Broncos are a 16.
I'm not buying the Broncos.
So Case Keenum, you don't think is?
No.
By the way, when he was introduced at the big thing the other day,
what happened?
Chase Keenum.
Oh, geez, really? Oh no. Somebody added an H.
Chase Keenum, and then not for that. It was Elway saying, "I'm." He goes, "I'm really looking forward to
Case
Case Keesum." You mean Casey Kasem? I mean, what was he thinking there?
The Broncos' defense is very, very good, and they've even added to it with that first-round pick Chubb, who will play on the defensive end, which will be fantastic. But I still look at their offense and go, "Oof."
You don't think it's enough.
Yeah, C.J. Anderson is left via free agency, so he's no longer with the team. I'm not a Case Keenum starting quarterback guy. Do I like the story? Sure, I do. But when you're looking at Kansas City, who now has Pat Mahomes at quarterback, that looks like he's kind of the future for the franchise for the next 10 years.
This is his stage, Dave.
Yeah,
this is all for him.
Big time.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Chargers
Come on.
are the favorites in the division. They have done very well free agency, very well draft-wise.
They're a 10.50, 10.5.
Like I'm not. What a terrible number, by the way. 10.50.
Used to be good.
Used to be, back in the day. But I look at that going, you know what? If I'm the Denver Broncos, I see 3 teams that could be better than me in a 4-team division. Because I look at John Gruden and I say, okay, John Gruden's going to turn around the Raiders. I think the Raiders had a little bit of a blip. I think they're more like the Raiders we saw 2 years ago. We'll see if that happens. But that is a very winnable division for 3 of those teams. I just don't know if the Denver Broncos are part of those 3.
You were watching RawMikeRichards.com either on the website or the dedicated YouTube channel. We're going to talk to Jeff Manishin here in about 4 minutes. Before that, I want to get to some of the issues he is going to talk about. He's going to talk about Osuna. He's going to talk about McCoy. He also had mentioned Humboldt, because of course they have charged the truck driver. He's only 29. The guy's only 29. Just came to the country too. It's a sad story. But to get sort of the details of where we're at now, because quite frankly, a lot of us, almost everybody, not really understanding exactly. I mean, we have some details. We know it's rural highways. Both Dave and I, we both driven them, so we know what it's like out there. And my thinking was, but it's the prairies. It's Saskatchewan. Like how could your vision, for instance, if that became up, how could that become impeded? Well, courtesy of CBC and the National, I'm just going to give you a brief sort of background on what they have uncovered, what is now public, including the charge for the bus or the truck driver himself. And there are some issues, but what does it mean in the bigger picture? We'll talk to Jeff Manishin after this, but here are some of the details of the awful tragedy in Humboldt.
The bus, as you may remember, was en route from Humboldt to Nipawin, traveling north on Highway 35 north of Tisdale. The speed limit there, 100 kilometers an hour. The bus then approached Highway 335, the intersection, which the truck was approaching from the east. The truck did have a stop sign. The bus did not. Visibility may have been an issue. We know a stand of trees partially obscured sightlines from the east and the south. The force of the collision sent both vehicles into the ditch at the northwest corner. Those are the facts. Now let's get some analysis. Tony Paisana is a defense lawyer, and he joins me now from Vancouver. Okay, let's go over some of the
when we're going to hear from Jeff Manishin about some of those issues.
Yeah. Hello.
I'm looking for the outstanding Jeff Manishin. It is Mike Richards calling.
Speaking.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for joining me and Dave here this morning, my friend. Now, we just showed a very brief sort of detailed layout of the Humboldt crash. And so where there was the stop sign, and of course the bus did not have it going northbound. Some of these details we'd not seen before, including a patch of trees that may or may not have been a part of it, but they charge a 29-year-old. And I would suggest, Jeff, it's one of these emotional situations, certainly here in Canada with what happened, where people, and this is a very Canadian way of looking at it, where they understand that it is a, quote-unquote, an accident. But at some point, liability and all those other things play into it. How, Jeff, do you think this plays out in court? Because either way, it's just going to be very, very still painful to bring it back to this nation.
Sure. I think we'll go back, first of all, Mike, to get into what the investigation was. What they would have had to do was accident reconstruction examination. And by that, they're going to look into issues such as visibility for the drivers of both vehicles. But if I'm not mistaken, the truck driver had a stop sign.
Yes.
The bus didn't. I've seen pictures, and I think it's at the southeast corner. In other words, it would have been to the truck driver's left as he's approaching the stop sign that we have the trees. But, beyond that, it's pretty open. So from the standpoint of being able to see another vehicle approaching the area, one would have expected it. But, of course, too, he's got the stop sign. So his responsibility, of course, is to stop, and he's not going to go until he's got an opportunity to be able to see the road forward. So the issues of accident reconstruction, what were the positions of the vehicles, what was the visibility like? Another major component will be trying to determine speed. It may well be the case that both the truck and the bus had those devices, the black boxes in them, to be able to help you with respect to speed. And an examination of the content of the truck's black box may get into as well, whether there are any signs of braking beforehand. What they want to do, what the police would want to do, is investigate this as thoroughly as possible, so you don't simply do you have an accident and people died lay charges. That's not the way to do it. But to ultimately determine that there are criminal charges, not simply provincial offense charges, says that there's a high level of dangerousness to the conduct, and the concept there, it's a form of advertent negligence, that there is a clear disregard for the safety of other people, engaging in conduct that viewed objectively as dangerous.
Is it manslaughter? Is that what the charges would be per each individual?
If I'm not mistaken, Mike, I think the charges were dangerous driving causing death and dangerous driving causing bodily harm. I could be mistaken. I don't think it was criminal negligence. I think it was dangerous operation of motor vehicle causing death. Several counts of that, several counts of causing bodily harm. I mean, manslaughter, Mike, is causing a death unlawfully and without the necessary intent to kill or cause that level of bodily harm. It is likely to cause death. So you could say, well, gee, an unlawful act is the driving. But the way that I believe they've characterized it is focusing on the driving. It's a section in the criminal code that's available. You can have dangerous driving without fatality. You take a look at the manner of driving. In addition, you don't work backwards from the fact there's a fatality means the driving was dangerous. Your focus is the nature of the driving. And it's an area of the law that has been reviewed by the Supreme Court of Canada a number of times because you have gradations. A provincial offense, careless driving, driving without reasonable regard for the safety of others on the roadway or without due care and attention. That's a provincial offense. Up a level is dangerous driving, and a level beyond that is criminal negligence, a wanton and reckless disregard for the lives and safety of others. So this is a notch down from criminal negligence, but it's still very serious.
Jeff, good morning. Good to talk to you.
Hi, Dave.
In your professional opinion, how long does a court case like this take, considering everything that's on the line and how a nation is watching?
Well, I think that we'll just start with the procedure. Because the matter was investigated, Dave, so fully before they laid charges, so this isn't a situation in which the charges were initiated within a week afterwards. They did the investigation up front. So by the time they've made the decision to lay the charges, they'll have a complete brief that will be available to disclose to the defense. From there, the defense will have to decide what's the nature of that evidence, how do we want to respond to it, do we want to retain experts of our own with respect to collision reconstruction or anything else. Of course, you've got the driver's version of events. You have to really try and evaluate, and again, if you're defending a case like this, you're working from a difficult starting point because your driver blew the stop sign. Well, in all likelihood. Sorry, I should stop there. We don't know that for sure. Did he go through the stop sign? Did he stop and then proceed? Either way, the bus has the right of way. And so to answer your question, Dave, it could take several months. The defense in a case like this would have the option of something called a preliminary hearing, where they get to hear from the main prosecution witnesses and then have a trial in Superior Court, judge alone or judge and jury. Or they could have a trial in the provincial court level. They'd have to make that call as to what they think is best, but it'll be several months, at least 6 months or more than that.
Well, I would think also the media intensity, as you know, you've had big-time cases in your career, but for this will have national attention, and it's not so much a country looking for retribution. I don't think that's the feeling about it at all. I think it's almost, to a degree, people, I think, really sort of almost emotionally wanting it to go away. I don't think this is a case of let's go out and get them. I think this coming back is a lot of pain. Therefore, if you're the Crown, if you're the representation on that side, what kind of sensitivities? Because you have to know that every day there will be cameras, newspapers, internet. This is going to be covered in a big way, which I think isn't exactly the easiest thing for the country to handle either.
I guess, although, Mike, as you mentioned, I've just recently been involved in a trial that got substantial media attention nationally. The answer I give you is you do your job, as Bill Belichick would say. You present the evidence. You aren't playing to the media or for the media. You're presenting the evidence for the court. And the Supreme Court of Canada said years ago the prosecution's role doesn't involve any notions of winning or losing. And you raised an interesting feature of this here, too. I don't know that I've sensed any huge emotional, I'll call it outcry to see that the driver get prosecuted. I haven't got that sense in the media at all.
No.
The better way I would put it is I think that what the people of Canada would want, and certainly people of Saskatchewan want, is to get a full airing of what happened. We just want to know, what took place, what were the circumstances that, let's say, account for the accident. And if it is a matter of criminal liability, so it is, and if it's not, it's not. But I'm sure everybody's wondering just, what took place, and that's why the expert evidence, together with, they may well have interviewed the bus driver, they'll have interviewed people who were on the bus, so you'll have a combination of circumstances of evidence, witness testimony as well as expert testimony. It'll give us, let's characterize it as a public hearing.
Yeah, it certainly is, Jeff. Moving along here locally in the city, Roberto Osuna is starting to pitch in minor league baseball, still serving Major League Baseball's 75-game suspension. He's due to come off that list in early August. We still don't know what's happened with the court case, but my question to you is this. Baseball has suspended him from his livelihood for 75 games, but we still don't know if the guy was proven guilty in court, do we? And does that make any sense to the common person watching or listening to this case?
It's interesting you put it that way, Dave, whether it's the common person or the legally trained person. I have some difficulty with it. I mean, my world generally involves the presumption of innocence. Now,
yes.
You have people released on conditions, when they get out on bail. Sometimes they don't get bail. They're in custody. You'll certainly have professionals. If a police officer is charged criminally, he or she may be suspended with pay for a period of time until the case is done, and that's an issue which the chiefs of police have tried to have changed. When you have a situation like this one, though, it isn't, if I'm not mistaken, I think Osuna has been suspended without pay. I think they call it an administrative suspension.
Correct.
And we could compare that to the exemption list that Adrian Peterson was on, where it was the commissioner's exemption list, so he was effectively suspended but did get paid. Here, Osuna not get paid. I could answer it a little bit this way, Dave. What if it turned out that there was a trial and Osuna was found not guilty because the judge found the complainant not credible?
Right.
It was too late. He's already done the 75 game suspension without pay. But that seems to be, I guess, within the collective bargaining agreement with respect to baseball, that's what happens on the strength of initially an allegation and when there is a criminal charge. But I think we've seen it for other athletes in the States, other baseball players. I can't recall if it was Jose Reyes or Aldis Chapman, where there were cases where there were potentially complaints, reports, not charged. The guy got suspended. With respect to Osuna, let's compare it. I think that linebacker from San Francisco 49ers,
yeah.
Remember just fairly recently, allegations of domestic abuse, and then the ex-girlfriend said, I essentially made it up. Well, what happens then?
Exactly.
Those are all questions that, let's say, bother me as a citizen, bother me as a sports fan, in addition to bother me as a lawyer. And I'm not so quick to jump to the conclusion, because there's an allegation, we have to effect a punishment prior to trial.
Okay, here now. Further to that point, hypothetically speaking, if Osuna is found not guilty in court, can Osuna turn around and sue Major League Baseball for loss of wages?
I would bet from the suing standpoint that when you have, Dave, a collective bargaining agreement that all the players sign and they've got a union, and Major League Baseball does, the terms, could you grieve it, would it be arbitrated? There are likely mechanisms, and that would do labor and employment law.
Right.
But I expect within that, you don't simply sue the league. There may be a mechanism within that. But I don't know. I don't know enough about the Major League Baseball, standard baseball players' contract, what the agreement is, but to be able to get your money back. And guess what else, too? It could be the case that the league would take the position, well, we don't care from the standpoint of the acquittal. A judge might have found a reasonable doubt. We're satisfied from our interviews of the complainant and you, Mr. Osuna, that it's probable that you did, in fact, commit this misconduct. And we're basing our finding on the probability standpoint, which is different. We aren't basing it on needing a conviction. We're going to do it on our own internal investigation and findings. And they may well have the right to be able to do that. Remember that the standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the only place it applies is in a criminal court. It doesn't apply from the standpoint of labor relations and from the standpoint of employee misconduct.
Jeff, before we let you go, I know you're a big fan of many sports. This was one of the reasons why you're on the show, and you've been a great supporter of ours for many years. Are you a fan of T.O.? And if you're a fan of T.O., and I'm talking about Terrell Owens, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, what do you make of him saying that he is not going to attend?
Get your popcorn ready. I have to say that you want to talk about a kind of spoiled attitude. The idea that, and he should have been elected to the Hall of Fame a few years before he was. But now, having been elected, what's the variation on the Groucho Marx line? I would not want to join any club that would have me as a member.
Yeah.
That here, fine, I'm being elected to the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to show you guys by not showing up. So then they say, oh, yeah, well, we'll show you by not really, from what I understand, doing or saying anything about your appointment. Yeah. Okay, that your election to the Hall of Fame. He's not a guy, we know some political leaders that are like this, who would take advice very well.
Yeah.
And it may well be that people around him, agents and advisors, say, T.O., go. It's a wonderful ceremony. You're going to be honored. This is what you were hoping for, looking for. You have your career. The people are going to recognize you. Be a part of the organization. I don't think that the Hall of Fame, having had him elected through the normal process, would be able to rescind that or revoke it. I'll presume there'll be a bust, and I've been to Canton, and it's tremendous. And I have to tell you, anybody that has a chance to go, the busts are spectacular. I mean, they're so detailed. They are very lifelike. Lots of video footage, lots of memorabilia. It's tremendous. For him not to go, I think fundamentally is a mistake.
Yeah, no,
there's going to be a gap in the program where it's, and our other newest appointee is Terrell Owens. Now, for the next person, I think it's a big mistake.
Well, I think he's going to, when he gets older, and I've heard people like Rod Woodson, I've heard people like Eric Dickerson talking about it, and I think that one day, who knows at what point down the road in his lifetime, he's really going to regret this.
I think it's petulance and selfishness, and he's missing the opportunity to be an inclusive part of a wonderful organization.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
The Hall of Fame is a tremendous institution.
Yeah. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us here this morning. Always a pleasure, and hopefully I will see you soon, my friend.
Sure, I'd love to get to see you guys again soon. That'd be great. Best to you both.
Jeff Manishin joining us here on the line this morning from Ross McBride. He, of course, very well versed as one of the country's best lawyers, but also because of that, some of his, I guess, the way he can detail legal actions and what's going through. We mentioned Humboldt, which, Dave, I think for a lot of people, as this does sort of, have some sort of resolve and closure. I don't know if you'll ever completely get that, but you can imagine in this, and let's say it is a matter of months. I don't believe the country at this point, at least my feeling, that people are like calling for someone's head. I think they just want this to be gone.
Right. Yeah, it's and yeah, he said it best too. They kind of want to know how this did actually happen, and so forth. But man, what a massive mistake if this is truly with the stop sign and how it was either blown or stopped and proceeded, or you know what I mean? It's just, I
can't believe there were trees there. That's the first time. Russell, just put that back up there again. I know.
Yes, that's the first time I saw the intersection too.
Look at that intersection. All of a sudden, of all places, right where it would be blindsided is right where that occurred.
Yeah.
In Saskatchewan, you can go a long time without seeing one tree.
Exactly.
One tree.
Not to mention a pile of them, and how. And when you're looking at that picture, how I guess how scenic is it as far as not being able to see through?
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like, because you're not expecting to see that at all in any point. Trust me, we've both driven down those highways. There's not too many trees in Saskatchewan to begin with, not let alone an intersection like that.
You're watching rawmike.com on the website or the dedicated YouTube channel. Hopefully you are still subscribing, as we see in the numbers that you are. So continue to do so, both the website and especially the dedicated YouTube channel, the Raw Mike Richards channel. Just hit the little magical thing where it's no, it's there, I think. I don't know. Just look for my head and click on subscribe. A couple of NFL things before we continue on here. I see Le'Veon Bell's agent said, well, this is the last year he's going to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting that guy? He's one of the, I don't say one of the few, but if I'm paying money, Dave, to see an athlete, he's one of them.
He's one of them.
He's on that list.
Yeah, he's part of that. It's interesting, though, because they've kept on toiling him around with one-year deals, and he's missed this, he's missed that. I get the Pittsburgh side of it where you don't overpay a running back just because, I hate to say this, but if Bell leaves, next man up.
Well, running back is that kind of position where they think they can find it. But I will say that, when healthy and engaged, he's a game changer. He can change the game. It's really hard to do at that level. It's really hard in football to be a singular entity on that field and change it, but he can.
Because he has about 4 more good, solid years left him, barring any injury, because he's 26 years old. If he goes to free agency, which I'm guessing he's probably going to do it just because of how things, and it's not just this year, it's the last couple of years. This isn't something that's built up over the last 2 weeks. This is like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Don't you think there's a drain from an organizational side of things? Like when you're continually arguing your point, I just think that eventually there's a divorce.
The Jets had the same situation with Darrell Revis.
And that was draining.
Yeah, it's big time draining. And every single year, Revis would suck out more money from the organization. And then when he went to pieces after he came back from New England, he was garbage, and he still wanted to be paid just because of the name Revis, right? Bell's taking advantage of his prime time area of salary expectations, and he'll get something somewhere. I'm just curious to see where he actually goes, because this guy shows up with a New England Patriot team or something like that. We've seen people do that before.
Oh, and that would be everyone's nightmare.
It would.
It would be, except for Russell, who's all happy all of a sudden, even though he got nothing in Sweden.
True.
Tyr Owens, as we mentioned, T.O., also making headlines in Canada. So he has invoked his 10-day with the Edmonton Eskimos.
That's even weird to hear it.
I had to really think about the sentence I'm saying, because it sounds crazy.
So if you don't know what's going on, if you're listening to this going, okay, what the hell does that mean? So when a negotiation listed player invokes his 10-day clause, the Eskimos have to do something with Terrell Owens in the next 10 days. So they could outright release him from the neg list, which means another team could pick him up. And if they don't do that, they have to offer him a contract. So within these next 10 days, a contract has to be put forward to his representatives. He has a representative actually in the Alberta province, which is kind of funny to even think of, but his agency probably hired somebody in Canada. So somebody in Canada, in Alberta, is taking care of that, and that's my Terrell Owens side of things, not Alberta, because Alberta's God's country. So basically, he's going to be looking at some sort of offer from the Edmonton Eskimos or an outright cut. We'll see what happens.
And then you brought up just before we went on air, said, to invoke the 10-day usually from the player going that way back.
Never happens.
Doesn't happen because guys they're like, if you don't sign me in 10 days.
Yeah.
Or do it or not do it, I'm going somewhere else. But when you're 47, what is he?
44.
Okay.
Turning 45 in December.
Okay, so 45-year-old guy, he's going, let's get he wants to play.
Yeah, he wants to play now.
Here is an example of where he's willing to play.
Mm-hmm.
This is not arena football. This is not AFL.
No.
This is the Indoor Football League with a team called the Allen Wranglers. He is playing in New Mexico. This is something that I had not seen beforehand. The Allen Wranglers, as he's playing in the Indoor Football League. Now,
it's not even the top caliber indoor arena league.
It's like the New Mexico Stars or something like that. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine every time in the, as we're going to call it, hockey rink, the ball's thrown out.
It is. There's
the boards. You use the boards in this particular sport if you've seen how the sport is played. Caught. And see, it was a very dumped right over. So you know how excited everybody is. But his time with the Allen Wranglers, I guess, wasn't all bad. And again, I guess it's property of the IFL.
Sure.
I guess it's called that. But it is so bizarre to see a guy who is in the Hall of Fame deciding doesn't want to attend. And now today we're watching his highlights from the Allen Wranglers in the Indoor Football League. And it is a touchdown. Okay, so at some point, Dave, you are, and you've seen by the numbers that a lot of people would have considered him first ballot. So I guess that's where his nose gets out of joint the first time. But maturity exactly hasn't been his best thing.
No.
But then when I see stuff like that, I'm like, where's the dignity? Don't you think that you'd want to go out and say, okay, at the very least, when I'm going to get the gold jacket, I'm going to go up there with my peers and get a bust of myself that's going to sit in where they have said the greatest players of all time are. And then he says, I'm not going. And the Hall of Fame, you know what they're doing with the jacket? They're mailing it to him. And now he's saying, maybe I'll play for the Edmonton Eskimos. I don't get it. Like, look, does some guys just want to continue playing? I mean, Ocho Cinco came up and played briefly for the Montreal Alouettes, but it just seems like he just is not balanced. That's the way I would put it.
Yeah,
there's no balance in his life.
It's a really good point, and it's really too bad. I read I don't know how many other books he has, but his original book, he talks about his relationship with his grandmother and stuff like that. His grandmother obviously has passed away. If his grandmother was still around, because she seemed to be the one that would straighten him out, and unfortunately she isn't.
It's a good point. I've kind of heard that story beforehand.
Yeah.
And there are those that were in touch and brought up by other people. But it's, okay, here's your question. If Terrell Owens comes to the CFL, will it spark your interest, even if you're a borderline or maybe you don't even like the CFL?
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden Edmonton is playing, I don't know, Winnipeg.
Well, I'm watching that anyway. That's a bad example.
Yeah, okay. So they're playing the BC Lions.
Yeah, so that's a better example. And I wouldn't traditionally watch that game because it'd probably be a late game.
Yeah.
And it'd be like,
By the way, I don't know what the Blue Bombers doing this past weekend.
God.
You're up 17 Cobb, and seriously, you lose on the last play of the game?
Garbage.
That was terrible.
The second half was garbage, but that's, I'm watching that game.
Yeah, I'm watching the game too.
I'm watching that game if he's playing for the Montreal Alouettes, and that's a terrible team to watch.
But I'm it's just like the moment of should Johnny Football get a snap.
Yes.
That's a big game.
Boom.
And the way that Mazzoli's been playing, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know how many snaps he's getting.
No, exactly. That time is getting closer and closer. We'll see what happens. This week I think it's Saskatchewan again with Hamilton, Saskatchewan. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a Thursday game.
Yeah. So that's
because they were terrible the week beforehand.
Oh, were they ever? And considering that Mazzoli was coming off consecutive games of 300 yards passing, and then all of a sudden he lays an egg like that.
Because here's my prediction: if it's not working for him offensively, I got a feeling they're putting him in.
Yeah.
Because that's two games in a row. It's a home game, and he's seen them already from the sidelines.
It's a quicker hook than usual kind of thing, just because of what you have on the sidelines in Johnny Manziel. I would, going back to the Owens thing, I kind of want to see what he can do here, just because he talks about running a 4.40.
Still?
That's what he's claimed. Yes, he's actually hasn't played in the NFL since 2010, but stunned the internet in June when he was timed doing a 40-yard dash in 4.44 seconds, taped.
Okay, one of the funny exchanges I ever saw with one of your favorites, Jose Canseco.
Yes, this guy is the Jose Canseco of football.
There is a similarity. He comes on, Rome is burning. And, so split screen, and there's Big Jose.
Yep.
And he goes, well, I'm looking at coming back. I just ran a 4, like it was a time like that. It was like a 4.5 or 4.6. Because he, legitimately, when he was younger, Jose Canseco actually was fast.
He was. He was the baseball's first 30-30.
Yeah. It's a weird way to think of it because of the size he got, but he actually
massively fast.
But he had speed. So he comes in and goes, well, I ran a, the other day, 4.6 or whatever. He goes, no, you didn't. What? Yeah, I ran a 4.6. No, you did not. You did not run a 4.6. You're on the show because I know you're a dirtbag and I know you want to get back. And when they think a roided up guy is coming up to talk to my grill and he's going to drop some crazy talk, I'm going to look at him and say, no, you didn't. And you just did that. You did not run a 4.6. Yes, I did. No, you didn't.
That
was awesome.
I would have loved to see that.
It's probably on the internet. I'm sure it's on the internet.
Just like I'll never forget the Jim Everett
one.
And Jim Everett was face to face.
It was weird. That's because that's not really his style. Like, I mean, look, he's going to say what he wants, but he doesn't get in guys' face. Okay, Chrissy, let's go for it, Chrissy Everett. If you call me that one more time. Okay, Chrissy. And he dumps the table. That was awesome. Look, before we leave, maybe the lesson learned is you need to be in touch with the side that is the practical joker side. We saw Jared Goff go in and pretend he was a walk-on at like a junior varsity.
Yeah, like a D2 or D3.
Yeah, so he goes to a prep school thing and he walks on and no one can believe what happens. Really funny. Matt Ryan does the same thing. Now, this is courtesy of ESPN. He does it at an Atlanta Falcons fan store to buy jerseys. So they put the getup on him. What's funny about this? Because they weren't thinking about it. Because of the wig, the glasses, and the stupid mustache. If you've watched Napoleon Dynamite, he looks exactly like Uncle Rico.
Oh, boy. Could throw it over the mountains.
Yeah. Videotaping himself throwing the football at the camera. and then hitting his van that he slept in. Uncle Rico was money. Here's Matt Ryan, courtesy of ESPN, and Chris Collinworth's son, who sounds exactly like him, by the way,
He does.
is part of this.
It's weird.
It is very weird because if you didn't see him, he almost looks like him too. Here's Matt Ryan as a guy selling jerseys to Atlanta Falcon fans.
You ever had a mustache?
Never.
First career mustache?
This is it right here. My dad rocks a strong stash.
You look like the uncle from Napoleon Dynamite.
Uncle Rico?
You really do look like Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico in the building. Let's roll. Is this first career disguise for you?
This is, I mean, other than like Halloween, this is the best costume I think I've ever had. I do look like a creep. Would you buy something from me right now? No, that's...
You got a real trustworthy salesman vibe to you. You really do.
All right, I gotta stay in character, huh?
We're at the Fanatics shop at Mercedes-Benz Stadium where business is good. So my man Marcus here is going to have some fun with the Falcon flock.
I'm playing the role of Marcus today, store supervisor.
Rock and roll.
Let's do it.
All right, Marcus, if you can hear me, let's get some spirit fingers one time. Hey, let's get this lady over here. Just say I play quarterback.
I play quarterback, in case you were wondering.
Oh, sorry, we're from Canada. I wouldn't even know who that.
Oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said I could pass a player on the street. I wouldn't know how to play.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, great. That's great for Canada.
Shopping for a big Falcons fan, though.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Falcons fan.
This is actually our top selling jersey, the number 2 jersey. He's pretty popular amongst the Atlanta fans.
Have you ever heard of him?
Have you guys ever heard of him, Matt Ryan? You don't get it on TSN, huh?
Oh.
I think a Matt Schaub jersey.
Okay, lean into his ear. Like you got to tell him a secret.
Let me fill you in on a little secret, though, man.
Schaub has been taking a lot of first-team reps.
Schaub has been getting a lot of first-team reps recently. So this might be a good purchase. You never know if he's going to start sometime soon.
Yeah, you never know.
Why don't you just try one on, man? Just try it, yeah.
All right, I'll try.
50% off, right?
So it'd be like 50?
Let's see. I think the Schaub ones are going at a steep discount, man.
Yeah, I think they're free.
These might only be $25, $35. So
honestly,
you could probably get that for like $15 for a Schaub jersey.
I'll try it on.
What about the best-looking quarterback?
Who do you think the best-looking quarterback is in the NFL?
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck?
Neck beard.
You like the neck beard. I see you got the beard working yourself.
But Matt Ryan's pretty good looking too, right?
What do you think about Matt Ryan? He's pretty good looking.
Oh, yeah.
No? For his age?
Yeah. If I were a woman his age, I'd do it.
What's that?
If I were a woman his age. Yeah.
You guys would be interested though, huh?
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
That's interesting. I couldn't make out what you were saying. I feel like my mustache is about to fall off. All right, so now I'm feeding you stuff?
Yeah, let's see if we can do this.
Okay, that's just a part of it. You can see the rest of it on our good friends from ESPN or... What? Apparently, he mentioned TSN. I couldn't believe that.
That was hilarious.
See, it's amazing how it filters down, but I guarantee you, it's through football. Like when they talked about the contract, that ESPN... Now, here's the only thing that kills me about this. The games they have shown on ESPN from the CFL this year, terrible.
Have they been?
Oh, my
the wins?
God. Because there's been some real sting. I think even the games in Toronto. Yeah, I'm sure that looked great south of the board. Like, it just kills you, right? Kills you.
To see 10,000 fans and empty seats. Yeah, I know.
Terrible. Let's get ready to rumble! I'd like to thank our good friend Jeff Madison from Ross McBride joining us, explaining just some of the legalities that we've seen, including with Osuna and what we can expect, and, of course, the Humboldt disaster as it plays out. But we appreciate his input, as always. Great thing. Have yourself a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.